Well, hello. I am going to take a few minutes today to talk to you about the Zoom Livetrak L6 and why I am so excited to have recently acquired it, and particularly how I think it's going to be useful in my M8 workflow, both for generally, writing and composition, but especially for performance. So yeah, I've just gotten this. I literally just got it yesterday. I am still wrapping my head around it. I would not claim to be an expert yet by any stretch. There's lots of things I have not even tried, but this thing already is showing a ton of promise, especially for a pretty low price point. So yeah, I'm just going to talk a little bit about why I'm excited about it, how it's going to be useful to me, I think, and yeah, things I like, and just generally my opinions on it. So first off, the first thing I want to mention is that this is a little battery powered slash USB powered mixer. I think it's technically got 12 channels, I believe. A couple of those are USB, but it of course can be powered by AA batteries. It can be powered by USB, like I mentioned. It can record to an SD card. It is 32-bit float, kind of. So technically it can't clip, although that's really only fully true on 1 and 2. That's less true here. But yeah, there's a lot of other great features about it. It also is a USB interface, which is actually the first thing I really like about it. I am a Pixel user, an Android user. It's actually what I'm using to record this video right now. And I've had lots of issues in the past trying to record from my M8 to my phone. And this solves it. This is a USB interface, audio interface. So I've got this running right now into my phone that's recording it. This is how I'm actually recording my voice. My voice is going into the mixer, which is coming right into my phone, which is going to pick up everything that we're doing today. So that's just a nice, convenient way. It's not the only way that you can record audio from your M8 into your phone. If you're using an Android, you can use other interfaces, but if you're going to be using this anyways, that is nice and convenient for sure. I think the bigger thing, though, is how I can send multiple external instruments in here, sequenced by the M8, out of the aux sends into my M8 to use the M8's effects and filters and whatnot in there. So just quickly, I'll just briefly play. I've got this little thing written. Super simple. Just did it sort of proof of concept. And what's going on here is I've got some drum samples on the M8. Those are over here on tracks 6, 7, and 8. But then I've got the M8 sequencing the Pro VS Mini, which is right here. I don't know if you can see. And then further over to the right, I've got my JX08, also sequenced by the M8. I've got the M8 sending MIDI into a splitter, which is running into both of those devices. Then what I'm doing is I've got audio coming out of both of those devices into channels 3 and channels 4. And then what I have done is I've actually, if you look, I'm not actually sending any of those into the master, but what I am doing is I'm sending these into these aux sends, and these aux sends, let me see if I can show you, are coming into this right-left channel splitter that I have on the M8, and they're going into two separate external instruments. And so, yeah, so what I'm doing is just sending to aux 1 and 2. I will say I did have to go into the settings with the companion app and change these to send pre-fader to aux instead of post-fader. Otherwise, if I had it post-fader, I also had to be sending to the master, which sort of defeated the purpose. But when you set it to pre-fader, it goes directly into aux, not into master, and then it goes into the M8. And so basically, if you go, I've talked about this in another video that I've done, but if you set up an external instrument, you can, have line in right, it's sending mono into one channel, and then you see, that's the Pro VS Mini. And then I have another instrument, which is going line in left, and that's the JX08, and I can put in, the M8's, I can use the M8's filter, I can use chorus, I can use reverb, I can do a bunch of different things. So I can bring in both external instruments into the L6 and then into the M8. Now, I could have done that before. I don't actually need the L6 to do that technically. However, one thing I found is that managing volume levels was kind of a pain. It meant that I was going back and forth between the M8 and then multiple different synths and just trying to manage multiple things at once, which was just kind of a pain. And so having the L6 and having these go through the auxes mean that there's less, jumping between multiple different pieces of gear at once that I'm doing. I can keep the volume sends on my external synths basically just at what they are, and I can do my tweaking here on the L6. So for example, let's say I feel like, oh, my bass is a little bit too loud. I think this is my bass if I remember. So I just go to the aux 1 and I turn that down, and let's say, oh no, now my pads are too loud. Okay, so I can turn those down too, or I can turn them both up. I do have to switch between aux 1 and aux 2 to be able to do that. But again, I'm interacting with one device instead of having to go between multiple, which especially on these smaller synths that I use like the Provius Mini or the Boutique, sometimes there are these teeny tiny little knobs or encoders or faders, and it just is easier to have one or a couple knobs that I'm dealing with here on one device. And yeah, this is really useful. It means that I can, again, use the M8's effects, but this is also useful for recording, whether it's, you're recording a live set that you're doing, or even if you're writing something, because as I mentioned earlier, this also can record to SD card. And so, if I hit that button and start recording, I'm just going to stop it because I'm not really recording anything I want to. But this actually records each channel separately. It'll record a master, but it'll also record stems from each channel. And that's super valuable because on the M8, if you're using external instruments, there's not really a way that you can record. You can record samples and then you can build your entire song from samples, which is certainly possible and valid, but that is more work. And especially if you're trying to do something more fun and improvisational, or live, that's probably not how you want to do it necessarily. Maybe you do. I don't know. Anyways, this gives you the option. Otherwise, you had to go into another interface anyways. The other advantage of doing it this way is that so you get these stems. So let's say you are composing something and doing it this way, you can bring those stems into your DAW where you have the ability to either route through buses or whatever it is. You have greater ability to mix and master in your DAW. Now, because you are sending back into the M8 everything that is coming out of the M8 on this, let's see, I think I have that coming on. Yeah, that's on channel 5 here, will include what is being sent out of aux here. So that does mean that this stem will have both of your external synths. However, you can always, if you really want to, just go render what you have in the M8 stems that way. This won't work if you've built something exclusively using live mode, but if you've built out your song in your M8, with the all the chains and phrases and whatnot, you can render those, and then those you can mix those with the stems that you've taken from recording these two channels in your DAW. So it gives you more ability to do stuff live. It also gives you more ability to record pieces conveniently. You could also always just take either the master or this M8 recorded channel, M8 recorded stem, which will have your external synths, and you could even just simply throw that through Ozone or some other sort of mastering thing if you didn't want to do any more mixing. So yeah, so far, we've got it. It works as an interface, which is good. It definitely makes it easier to manage your levels of external synths that you're using with the M8. You also have the ability to record those more easily. And honestly, maybe you want to use more than 2 external synths, which is kind of the maximum of what you can do with the M8, unless you don't mind them all having the same effects sends or whatnot. So let's say I wanted to bring in more synths. So I could, use a MIDI out instrument instead of an external instrument, and then I could route another synth into here. Now that's not going to use the M8's effects, but you can use the onboard effects here. Maybe I could put it through a pedal or something. And with the fact that this can be controlled via MIDI, I could actually use the M8 to control parameters on here, including, for example, the level, the volume of a particular channel. So if I wanted to do ducking, I could do that via MIDI, where the synth that I have coming into here, I duck the volume on the L6 in order to get some side chain, sort of that side chain compression ducking effect. I will say if you're recording, everything that is recorded is pre-fader, so that won't come through in your recording. So that might be more useful for live. But yeah, certainly something cool that you can do. There are a lot of other things that this can do. It seems like a really interesting device. I've only played around with recording a little bit, but it seems great. One thing I will say, so I mentioned as an interface with my phone, it works well so far. I did plug it into my computer, and I immediately got some whine. I don't want to immediately pin that on the device, though. I do have it plugged into AC power, which you need if you want to send more than a stereo send to your computer or wherever it is. You can, if you want to send each of those sends separately, it has to be on AC power. And I can't say for sure because I don't remember off the top of my head, but I do believe that my computer and my and the AC power that this is receiving are on separate power strips. So there's a variety of reasons that whine could be introduced. I don't want to immediately pin it on the device, but that is a possibility that I'm going to explore a little bit further and see. But honestly, I don't really plan to plug this into my computer all that much. I think for my purposes, I'm really looking forward to using this to record ideas. I'm also really looking forward to using this to play live, where I'm playing tracks that I may have previously built on the M8, but I want to rebuild them using external synths. And I just, like I said, I want that ability to control volume just a little bit easier with, encoders versus, going into the mixer screen and, trying to, adjust things on the fly with all these like clicky little button presses, which are why I love the M8, but not necessarily what I want to be doing in a live setting. So anyways, I think that's probably enough to say about this device, but I think it is a really, really fantastic little device. Not perfect. There's been some criticism about the fact that technically, while I think the recording is 32-bit float, you can still clip on these channels. People who are more technical than I am can tell you why that is. But honestly, I think for my purposes, and particularly for this price point, just the amount of features that this thing offers are just insane. And I think this is going to be super helpful for me. Also, don't know if you can tell, this thing is teeny tiny. I mean, this is probably twice the M8's size, which the M8 itself is really, really teeny tiny. So I think this is going to be a great device that you can easily throw into a backpack, to record things. And yeah, I definitely plan on using this thing quite a bit. And I will definitely update if there's more things that I think are valuable to know about this or worth being mindful of. But yeah, this seems like a great little device.